Brown now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run inside the 10. Head first. He flies off the 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing floor ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him free to the 30, to the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
Nothing wrong with Orange and Blue Podcast.
What is up, NRW crew? How you doing, MHRT fam? And it's good to see you, Broncos country. Welcome to the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Baki, and beside me is my buddy, Cameron Parker. We both cover the Broncos for Predominantly Orange, and of course, we are both hosts here on the MHRT Network. How are you today, Cam?
I'm doing really well, man. I'm really fired up for this episode. I've been, waiting a long time for, to talk to him, and I can't wait to, get the opportunity to talk Broncos with James Palmer.
Yeah, oh man, I'm so excited. He's waiting in the green room. We're just going to do our intro real quick. Welcome once again, everyone, to the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast. We are a fan-led, Broncos-based podcast. We go live every Thursday at 7654 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch on the MHRT Network. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it out there. Come on, guys. Help us build the family. All right? Ring that notification bell. You don't want to miss out whenever we go live. You don't want to miss our awesome content. We have several other shows on the Mile High Roundtable. We have the 5280 podcast, live 7654 on Tuesdays, same locations. We also have the new AFC West Roundtable show, Wild Wild West. It features representation from all 4 divisional teams. It's been a lot of fun. There's been some really good talks and a lot of fun banter and smack talk. It's great. And then on Fridays at, I believe it's now 11. Yeah, I believe it's in the morning. I keep screwing this up. It's 2, 1, 12, and 11. The Broncos Breakdown with Bronco Bill drops on the channel. All right. You can also catch every one of our podcasts in audio form wherever you find your favorite podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you find them. All right, guys. We also have, I want to bring it up really fast. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time on it, but we do also have our merch store. So if there's anything that you guys, want to look at or you want to rep your favorite podcast, because you know that this is your favorite podcast network, we have t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags, water bottles, pretty much anything you could want as far as merch goes. The link is in the bio below. Hit us up, grab your merch. I promise you guys, it's great quality and you will not be disappointed. That being said, I would really appreciate it if you all would join us in welcoming a very special guest. He is an Emmy award-winning reporter for the NFL Network. He covers the Broncos as well as several other teams on a consistent basis and NFL news in general. He has the very best hair in all of sports media. Please help me welcome Mr. Jimmy Palm Trees, James Palmer. Hey!
What's up, guys? I'm so upset I'm wearing a hat after that intro, right? It's man.
Anybody who knows you have the best hair in
I know. We pump it up and I'm covering it up. I hate it. And the Jimmy Palm Trees, I don't know. That might be retiring. With Kay leaving Good Morning Football, we might have to retire Jimmy Palm
I don't think I'm okay with that. I don't think I'm okay with that.
I had a coach from the Bucs come up to me and was last year and was like, "Hey, embrace the Jimmy Palm Trees." I was like, I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. And she was like, you were down there with us for the entire month, which was a couple years ago when Brady had his start with the Bucs, and I was relocated to Tampa by myself during COVID, living in a elderly woman's Airbnb home for a month, which was a really wild, it's a part of my career I'll never forget. But she was like, embrace it. And I was like, I don't know. And then I embrace it. And then Kay texts me, I'm leaving. There goes my Jimmy Palm trees. I finally said, okay, let's do it. And now it's gone.
Yeah, I honestly, when I say that I don't think I'm okay with it. I'm almost as sad about losing Jimmy Palmtree's nickname as losing Kay on Good Morning Football.
I know, right? Great show. So. They just won. Hey, speaking of Emmys, they just won the Emmy for best sports show at the Emmys 2 nights ago, I think.
Oh wow! Hey, well there you go. I mean, good. I'm good for them. Shout out to Good Morning Football for winning the Emmy for that time slot and all that. That's great.
Yeah, tons of great people work on that show. It's a blast going there to New York and being on with those guys.
Someone I really want to meet at some point is Kyle Brandt. I really want to sit down.
Yeah, the problem with Kyle, he's just got no energy. It's always just dead.
Oh, none whatsoever.
I was gonna say with the Jimmy Palm trees. I mean, if you're not gonna at least have it for the persona, maybe create your own alcoholic drink maybe with it.
Ooh. I call it like a fruity cocktail.
I can cheers to that.
Like a summer drink.
Yeah, kind of like a summer drink.
Yeah, I like that.
A cocktail.
It'd be interesting because we're in this landlocked state of Colorado,
right?
For a Jimmy Palm trees, but you know what? People won't know. They don't know.
We can get down with it. Look, I will drink it on this show. I mean,
oh, okay.
Yeah. So there you go.
I'll start trying to mix some stuff up together on this Memorial weekend. Yeah.
Right. Perfect weekend for it, right?
Yeah. Right.
So, welcome to the show, James. We really appreciate you jumping in with us. This is really exciting. I started the dialogue with you about getting you on the show back in December, and just a bunch of different things happened, and we weren't able to ever get anything worked out. So it's awesome to finally have you on the show. We're just really excited to have you here.
No, I love it. Yeah, it's funny. I remember when we first started talking, like, yeah, let's do it. And then December, January, February, March, I could just keep going. It gets insane through the playoffs and then through the Super Bowl. And then the Super Bowl led into, I don't know. I think I was in New York for a while.
Free agency.
Yeah. Free agency. I was in New York for a while with Good Morning Football, like a combine. And I mean, the league's pretty good at it, guys. They make sure they stay relevant all the time.
You really got to create your own sleep schedule.
Yeah. Right now's a good time, though. I like right now.
Yeah. So already in the chat, we've got Avatar, who's always one of our first comment in the show every time. He says, "What's up, Broncos country? Let's ride. Hashtag in Peyton we trust. I am so excited to get to chat with the great James Palmer. He is very much loved by Broncos country."
Oh, I love it.
Love that a lot.
I love the George Payton love too.
Yeah, we love George Payton on this show. Absolutely.
Hard not to.
We have Bronco Bill from Broncos Breakdown saying hello, Broncos country. We have Mundungus in the house. We have Shadow Jacker jumping in. We have Graham Tidekey, who writes with Cam and I on Predominantly Orange. He says James Palmer is greater than Jimmy Garoppolo. To which I will not agree.
Jimmy's a great guy, by the way. Really good dude. But okay, I won't argue.
But Douglas says that I will literally drink anything on the show or off the show, and well, I mean, as long as there's alcohol in it, he's probably not wrong. But to be fair, I'm a soldier, or I was a soldier, so that just kind of goes hand in hand. So
got it.
Mile High 6, go Broncos from Canada and Clemson.
Oh.
And then our other buddy up in Canada, who's the host of the Wild Wild West podcast, Richie Richey, great White North Broncos fan. So it's good to see everybody. James, just starting out, I got to know about the hair. Since I started out with it in the intro. What is your regimen, or does like the makeup department take care of that?
No, man, I'm on the road. I'm not one of these softies that's living in the studio. You know what I mean? My life is out and about. I live here in Colorado. I'm the only NFL employee living here in Colorado. And so, no, man, I do my own makeup. I do my, obviously do my own hair. And so I don't spend much time in the makeup chair and the hair chair, or it's the same chair, I guess. It's really just, it's the hotel, man. That's really all I do. And yeah, it's a little, blow dry and a little pomade and throw a little bedhead hard hold on that afterwards because we're in the elements, man. Like I said, we're not in the studio. I mean, there's a really good one of it sounds like very conceited, but there's a really good picture of me for the Broncos Chiefs game in, say 19, Drew Lock starting, like snow pouring down. And it was like a late in the season game, right? Like a week 15 or something. Could that have been maybe 3 years ago? And I'm just like, my hair's like perfect, but it's just encrusted in ice. I look like a Lego figure in some capacity. But yeah, man, that's essentially what goes down. It's pretty simple. It's been trained, and Eddie here in Northfield cuts my shit up, and he's awesome, man. I got a bottle of whiskey there to chill with him every 2 weeks, and he runs a great ship. Cuts the whole family's hair.
There you go.
I was gonna say I can't wait for the Head and Shoulders deal, between you and Greg Dulcich.
Hey, listen, Greg's got a leg up on that, right? I mean, he's got a great flow already.
Yeah.
And I love seeing him out that first day of OTAs, by the way, that I got a chance to see earlier this week when they were getting a chance to run some team and stuff. And the first time I got to see him move around a little bit, man, he's put together. He might be somebody really interesting to keep your eye on this season early on. But no, the flow is there. I mean, the flow is that's the closest thing I've seen right to Polamalu, who is the face of Head and Shoulders.
For sure.
Mahomes is involved too, but I mean, Greg's got some.
Mahomes got nothing on Greg Dulcich.
No, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, guys. I know we're not supposed to speak like very glowingly about the Chiefs probably on this.
I can respect them.
Close. I mean, it is a tremendous cut. I mean, the tight and the way it goes back to like a V down the back, and it's like it's flawless in a sense to where when it's messy, it looks insane, and when he gets it on the way to the stadium, it's still looking pretty good.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Greg is, like I said, the closest thing to Polamalu, I think, in terms of that flow look.
Yeah. I actually said right after we drafted him, I was like, man, when did we draft the baby of Weird Al Yankovic and Fabio?
It looks like the guy on Workaholics. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So anyway, well, I appreciate that. Go ahead, Cam.
Well, so obviously we'll start with the elephant in the room, right? Which is the new quarterback. Gone is literally every single starting quarterback that has, been through that Broncos system from last year. Drew Lock is gone. Teddy Bridgewater's gone. And there was this whole identity of, where are the Broncos going to go? Are they going to go for a new quarterback? I asked George Stoya this on the other podcast that I do, mainly Broncos, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this on Nothing Rhymes. But take us through everything that happened from your perspective, covering the team, and just everything, the bombshell that had happened with this Russell Wilson trade. What was your reaction? Where were you? Even the whole spiel of that.
Yeah,
I was on our show actually. We broke it on NFL Network. I think Tom had it. We all kind of knew it a little. I think Tom knew it. Tom knew it before me. I'll give him the credit for that for sure. But we were all kind of part of breaking it on NFL Network. And I want to go all the way back to when George Paton comes in and passes on a quarterback at 9. And to me, that kind of started the dominoes coming together in how he was going to go about this process. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I went to Ohio State. I'm a Justin Fields fan. I'm excited to see he doesn't have a whole lot to work with in Chicago. But I think he could play. And I did a lot of work with Mac Jones and spent a lot of time with him in the offseason. And I thought the world of Mac in terms of competitor and the amount of teams I talked to that were like, nobody processes information in this draft like Mac Jones. I mean, it's most teams I talk to are like, it's not even close. Like, and he can spin it. Like, it's not like he's the greatest athlete out there, but he can spin it and he's got some moxie to him. So they had options, right? And they had, something that they could go with. And when he passes on quarterback and goes with who I think is going to be a top 5 corner in football this year in Pat Surtain, I'm like, he's got to have another plan, right? And this was slow played like crazy. And so few people knew about it, and everybody's obviously focusing on Aaron Rodgers. And as soon as Hackett gets hired, everybody's kind of making that connection. But the combines, when things started heating up in a sense, and then I'll be completely honest. I didn't really know it was Russ, but I kept hearing from people in the building like, they're working on something, man. Like George is not letting too many people know, but something is happening, and I think it's pretty big. And I heard that from like multiple people who are decently privy to information, and they had no clue. So few people had a mark on it. When Schneider and George started talking at the combine, it started going there, and then at the Senior Bowl, they started talking some more, and it started getting some legs just with so few people. And so I think this is a credit to George and the way he handled it, and to John Schneider and the way he handled it, because there's multiple times this could have fallen apart with the wrong people putting information out there about it because of, I mean, it will be honest, because of Russ and the way he really, really cares about his reputation and perception. And if this didn't go, you know, the way it did, there's a chance it couldn't have went down. So yeah, I started like hearing more and more like, I think something's going to happen. And the way that they're able to do this is you have a really good roster. And George Paton does not like giving up draft picks. He's nothing like his buddy Les Snead, but he had a roster and a draft capital in place that allowed him to do this and not lose the farm, because that's usually what happens, right? You lose too many pieces when you go for a play like this. And I know for a fact, because I talked to enough people, they were blown away that they were able to pull this off and not lose one of their wide receivers, not lose a player in Javonte Williams, not lose Surtain, not lose. There were a number of players where they were like, "Oh God, if we can do this and keep them," and they did, and that's what like shocked them, and that's why people were running up and down the hallways. I was told at Dove Valley, just like going
like a dream scenario.
Yeah, because you still look at we can get into it a little bit. You look at the draft that they had. The cupboard wasn't bare for this draft. And a lot of times it is after you make a move like this, and they still had picks. And I think what gives you, and I know you guys are big George Paton fans, so I'm glad I'm on.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm a big George Paton guy. What he did, not at the top of the draft, which he crushed with Surtain and Javonte Williams, but if you look at what he did in the back end of the draft 2 years ago, I think that gave you a little bit of a more comforting feeling, going like, we're cool without ones for a couple years. Like
Cooper, Stearns,
Russell Wilson, and you look at like Jonathan Cooper, who's drafted. Like, let's see what Baron Browning can do healthy with it. Like, I mentioned
Caden Stearns, guys, and
right? Stearns. And I mean, like, you look at those guys, and you talk to GMs around the league, they'll tell you if I can get 3 starters out of a draft, it's a successful draft.
Right.
3 starters, not like, you know, Pro Bowl. You look at that draft, it's going to be interesting in a couple of years when we're like Surtain, Javonte Williams, and I guarantee you might have those 2 who are Pro Bowl players, and I think Surtain's an all-pro type player.
Yeah.
And 3 to 4 starters. Like, that's a hell of a draft. So I think you Broncos fans should be thinking, like, we got Russell Wilson. Yes, we gave up ones. Look at what George Paton does as a guy that can draft. And I think that puts you in a really good spot to be able to make this move when you can pick well in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5.
Absolutely. So my next question for you, I'm going to jump off the Broncos for a second. I want, and this one's about you.
I may not know.
You're going to enjoy this, I promise. If from sideline to syndicated, the James Palmer story were to be made into a blockbuster film, who would play you?
Oh man. Okay. So when I was like younger, people used to say, and this doesn't work now because he's way too old, but people used to say, for some reason, I looked like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Alan Rusk, I think his name is. That was like way back in the day. Now he's on Succession and he's way too old. You know, it doesn't match. I mean, I'm a big Gosling fan. He can do anything. I think the world of Ryan Gosling. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really know the answer to this. I don't know who would play. They're not going to make a movie about it in the first place. So I think we're good.
I don't know. I mean, Kevin James did just play Sean Payton. So
I'll be honest. Like, I like Sean. I literally thought that was a joke when I watched the trailer. I was like, "There's no way this is a real movie. Like, this is not."
Who knows?
And I think Kevin James stinks. I'm sorry. I can't stand Kevin James. And he hangs out with all my favorite like comedians. But I don't think I think he stinks. I thought it was a fake movie. I was like, there's no.
Well, I mean, I think he's got a few that are good when he's with those guys.
Yeah,
I personally enjoyed Grown Ups
stuff, and
but whenever he's the only one I think I ever enjoyed Kevin James carrying the movie in was Here Comes the Boom. I liked that movie actually.
How long I got to be on here?
But I mean, I enjoyed it. I won't lie, I enjoyed it. But that could be just because I ran out of things to watch in Afghanistan.
That might be the case.
That's probably because I've never watched it since. That's probably what it was.
There it is. See.
So anyway, Ryan Gosling. I was gonna guess Tom Hanks just because he plays everybody. But I like that answer, Ryan Gosling.
I'm gonna look at my facial structure to see what would. Now I say I think I look like Ryan Gosling. That's not right. I don't know. I'm not to try to see who I look like.
So there you go. Well, hey, I'm glad I could plant that in your brain for you.
I'm gonna ask my wife when we're done at dinner tonight. What do you think? She's gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" Shut up.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bring up one here from another one of our co-hosts on the network, Glenn Hauser. Says, "Hey James, really love your work. With your job, are you still able to enjoy the NFL as a fan, or is your fandom reserved for the college game? # screw Harbaugh."
I love that now. Yeah, I'd say. It is ruined. I'm not gonna lie. There is really no fandom to it, and people always ask me like who I root for. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I grew up an Eagles fan. My dad actually covered the Eagles, so
I'm sorry.
So like I knew a lot about the team and going to Lehigh Valley and going to training camp and stuff as a kid, but then like once you start covering it. And you're just around different teams, and I'm with like different teams every weekend. So hopefully, I get back with like the Broncos a lot more than I like in 2015 when I was here a bunch. But I tell people I root for humans. Like I root for people that I know are good people. I don't root for teams. I root for players and coaches that I really, really care about and like as individuals. I root for them to have success. That's kind of where I've taken it now. Now there are some cool moments you get. I get embedded in a team, guys. Not gonna lie, my streak got ruined, but it was a great gambling streak from 2015 to this year. Whoever I had throughout the playoffs won the Super Bowl, because I kind of like start figuring out where I need to be back into the season, or the network does that, and they're like, "Hey, we need you with them." Like, first, I had no idea why I was in Philly. Well, I know the Eagles pretty well, but like, why are we with the Eagles? Like, Carson Wentz is done. Like, Jason Peters is done. They had a million injuries. I was with them like from week 14 on. They win the Super Bowl over the Patriots. 2 other years I'm with the Patriots. They win the Super Bowl. Broncos 15. They win the Super Bowl. Chiefs win the Super Bowl. I switched from the Chiefs to the Bucks the next year. Bucks win the Super Bowl. So like, whoever I was with won the Super Bowl up until this last year. I was with Cincinnati and they ended up losing. So that was the first year since 15 or since 14, because 15 I did it, that I had that whoever I was with,
So what I'm hearing is that before the Super Bowl, before Cam and I start placing our calls to people in Vegas, we need to text you and find out where you're at.
You'll see where I'm at. That's who I'm on TV with. Do it long before that, by like week 15, where you see I start spending most of my time. Is usually who wins a Super Bowl.
There you go. So we have a few people jumping in, telling us who they think would play you. Mundungus says Liam Hemsworth.
Oh, okay.
All right.
It's a little
KB82 says I think Josh Duhamel.
Yeah, Duhamel.
Duhamel, however you say. I've always said Duhamel. It just makes sense to me.
Okay.
And then Mundungus throws another one out there. Tom Hanks' son, Colin Hanks.
Colin Hanks. Hey, maybe it is Colin Hanks.
There you go.
I wouldn't mind Colin Hanks. I liked him in what was that movie where he plays Sean Brumder and he drops out of he wants to be a writer.
Yeah, I don't
remember. John Lithgow.
I don't remember what it was called. My favorite Colin Hanks. Anything he ever did was actually just a very small part that he had on Band of Brothers.
Ooh,
but
tremendous. I love Band of Brothers.
He killed it in that part. So
yeah, one of the best pieces of filmmaking I think I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Ranked too low. HBO just came out on Men's Health. We're not talking Broncos at all. HBO came out on Men's Health with the 42 best shows HBO has ever made. First off, Veep's not even on the 42, which doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense.
The Wire was 1, Sopranos was 2. I think Band of Brothers was 5.
Too low.
And I think that might be too low.
I would have put that 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a big Sopranos guy, so
Now, Sopranos was great though.
Yeah.
So all right. So Cam, you got another.
So I want to circle back obviously to the Broncos, and obviously you talked about covering the team, and you said it's a little bit hard, but you do root for success, and this is a little bit of a relevant one as far as talking about potential breakout players, and we divulged obviously about Russell Wilson and him coming to the Denver Broncos. And him coming obviously lifts a lot of boats for a lot of players that are on the roster. And I know that you've talked about this maybe even ad nauseum now on NFL Network. But who are some of your breakout players that you're keying on for this Broncos team?
Yeah, Cameron, I think I look at two different aspects of it, right? Obviously, our eyes are gonna go right to the skill guys because naturally our eyes follow the ball, and you're gonna think, anything up from 0 is a improvement. And I think I know what you're talking about. Jerry Jeudy had 0 touchdowns last year. So anything from 0 is a step in the right direction. I think he has the ability to find himself in a really, really good position. And the same thing with Courtland. I think people forget the hype that was around Courtland. Was it heading into the 20 season where people were like, this is going to be a superstar. This is, and he had bad quarterback play with him.
I have his jersey pinned to my ceiling right here.
There you go.
No, definitely not.
And so, I mean, and he's also multiple years now removed from the ACL, which I think is a massive difference. So receiver is a spot where you definitely would look and you'd be like, well, I mean, Jerry Jeudy is like the king of all of us watching videos online of him putting a DB in a blender and then going like this, and then the ball never comes and everybody just goes, wow, what a move. That's like what Jerry Jeudy's known for, right, in the social media world. But I would think there might be somebody, and this isn't going to be the sexy play of it, but this is a completely different scheme you're running for your offensive line. And this outside zone running scheme, somebody's skill set, say Quinn Miners, man, seeing him the other day, the dude is put together now, and dropped 10 pounds and can move. And maybe Lloyd Cushenberry, who's a guy who also what has everybody been angry about, right? And inside the 10, he's not getting that push that we want in the red zone. Well, if he's going to play more of an athletic style of offensive line play, you might see one of these guys really be the most improved because now they're playing in a scheme that fits them physically and fits the strengths that they have much more. Now, again, it's going to be hard for fans to be like, who I think was the most improved Bronco? Lloyd Cushenberry moved so much better in this outside zone scheme. Nobody's going to be saying that, right? You know what I mean? Right. But I think you might see, and this is kind of off topic, but follow me here. When I broke into the NFL, I was covering the Houston Texans as a beat reporter before NFL Network. And Gary Kubiak was the head coach there. And I remember watching him put together that offensive line in guys that fit that system, fit that outside zone, those smaller offensive linemen that are better athletes, that can run, that can move, play in space. Before, when he finally got it together, he didn't have those pieces, a guy like Chris Myers, who was playing center for them, right? And Wade Smith and Ryan Harris and guys, Ryan was in Denver, and the guys that eventually Dwayne Brown that could move thrived, but you have to find those type of guys. The point I'm making is there might be guys on this roster when you look at someone and go oh, this really fits him. And that might be a completely different player maybe in Lloyd Cushenberry you see. So I think there's going to be different guys because of the change of system that are going to be, probably extremely improved. And some guys we're going to go, this doesn't fit. Back with Gary, it was we got to get rid of this offensive lineman. This doesn't fit what we do. This is a big stiff, which works in some systems. And so I think you're going to find some people thrive with the change, and some that don't. And that could be part of your most improved. But I think Jerry's a really easy one. Yeah. The same with maybe, and I don't know if you're saying Courtland's most improved, but I think you might see the guy that we thought we'd maybe see 2 years ago.
What about a defensive player? If you had to pick a defensive player who's going to have a breakout season, who would you pick there?
Well, a lot of guys are motivated by money. I'm not going to say he's motivated solely by money, but Bradley Chubb needs to have a year.
Yes.
I mean, he needs to have a season. And we've seen it. I remember doing a story on him. I wrote a piece on him, maybe his second or third year, I can't remember. And talking to guys like Garrett Bowles, and they have an amazing relationship that's fun to watch. And talking to defensive players that are like, you don't understand, like this dude is incredible. Like his speed to power is incredible. And we just haven't had a chance to see it with the injuries and the things that have happened with him physically. I could see him having the year where everybody goes, oh, okay. And if Randy Gregory stays healthy, you now have somebody rushing opposite of him. I mean, let's remember, they pressured the quarterback decently after Vaughn was traded last year. It didn't drop off after Vaughn was traded. Now, I think he's put in a really good position because, like I said, you have Randy Gregory. I think Nick Bonito is going to be a player. Like, I think that was a really, really good
I was actually super excited about that
really
pick. I even had him. I'd even picked him in I think in the offseason, I think I did 8 different mock drafts. And I think in 4 of those at 64, I took Nick Bonito.
Man,
so
he is a naturally physically a pass rusher. I mean, he has the bend, he has all the tools to be a good pass rusher. My point is, like, if you have guys that can rush opposite of Chubb, you have DJ Jones, who wait till people see like really what type of player he is. And if Draymond takes another step on the inside, interior pass rush is the biggest help for guys on the outside. And I think Chubb is the guy. But I told you, like, I think he already played incredible last year. I think the jump Surtain makes from talking to people in the building throughout this offseason, just kind of having some casual conversations, I think he's going to be incredible. But I think we all kind of know that. I think we all kind of see that. Like, his technique already is like a polish. I was talking to Justin Simmons about it the other day, and it's just like it's flawless already. Like, it's perfect already. And when you have guys like Richard Sherman that are like, this kid's just already perfect.
Yeah.
It's really going to be wild to watch.
And that's not a word that gets thrown around in professional sports very often.
No, and guys don't like to talk and rave about guys that play the same position they play.
Right.
Like, nobody likes to do that. But like, his technique is just so sound. He's so physically gifted. I remember doing his pro day. It was a really cool instance last year. If I'm going all over the place, you guys just tell me. But
no, dude, go.
It's a good thing.
It was really cool last year because Pat had his pro day at Bama. And the very next day, J.C. Horn had his pro day at South Carolina. And I did both. And I was with the same group of scouts where we all saw Pat one day, and then we all saw J.C. Horn the next day. And it was what you try to get out of the combine, right? The whole point of the combine is when guys run drills, you're seeing the same drill from every guy so you can have a better ability to find that comparison, right? Oh, that didn't look like the last guy. That didn't look like him. He doesn't move like him. That's the whole point of the combine. And so when the field part. And so all the scouts got to see both back to back. Now, I want to say JC had a great pro day. He actually beat Pat's numbers in almost every single thing. And talking to him afterwards, he was like, I knew what Pat put up, and I had something to strive for, which is that competitive dog in JC Horn. I think that really the Panthers fell in love with, because Rule was at that pro day and saw him like, oh, these are his numbers. I want to beat Pat's numbers. But Pat is just so smooth and so flawless in how he operates. I remember talking to Saban at that pro day, and he was like, I would have a conversation with him on like Monday or Tuesday and be like, what are you thinking for what we should run? Now, he's not picking our defense. He's not picking what we do in the secondary. He's like, but almost every single time what he told me is what I was already being like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And he knew that's the smarts he plays the position with as well. So
that's something that's something that can't be taught.
No,
like, that's just natural instinct. And
and it's been natural instinct, and he's been taught it by his dad since he was like 5. Yeah. There's that part of it as well. But like, he just knows guys. I mean, today when he was talking, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll already be studying DK, and I'll be studying Debo long before training camp starts.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, you were talking about just you don't hear very often about cornerbacks talking about the same player of their position. There was actually, Xavier Howard was on with Patrick Peterson for the podcast that Peterson was doing. And I believe it was like during that season, but they're talking about, how gifted of a corner, Surtain really was. And so when you bring up something like that, it is rare, because it's like, you think of those types of corners that come into the league, of guys like a Jalen Ramsey, that comes right in and is like a game breaker at corner, like immediately, and so, it is a little bit rare.
It is. And sorry to cut you off, Cameron. Like, I just think everything I know that he did last year and had to do to play at that level, sitting with Cameron Parker, the DB coach, at every single meeting, getting there at the ass crack of dawn every single day to sit with him and sit with CP and be like, all right, how do I do this? How do I do this? Because you're swimming as a rookie, especially at that position. Right. Tight end, obviously quarterback. I mean, there's some mental weight on you at a couple of these positions. And to do that as a rookie and to know all the extra work he put in trying to like catch up now that he is not trying to catch up to the league, I mean, I like that. That's probably look at this mop right now.
There you go. Woo! I think that's the worst we've ever seen James Palmer's hair look ever in history. That's incredible. You saw it here, folks, on Nothing Rhymes for the very first time.
Not very good. I had this. I put it up because I had this big scar in the front of my head.
I was gonna say no gifts will be made in the making of this film.
No, I promise you're gonna see it all over Twitter tomorrow. James Palmer takes off hat, and it's gonna be like a 10-second GIF that's going all over Twitter, and everybody's retweeting it. And you're gonna be like, "Oh God, what did I do?"
Yeah, it's over. Yeah, the curtain has been revealed.
The end of hashtag the end of an era.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pull up a couple quick questions from some of our fans here. I had one here. Mundungus asks James, how does the Broncos roster stack up NFL wide?
All right, so that's a really good question. So I would say it's a weird way to put this, but I was talking to a couple different people around the league, and they were like, if you exclude the quarterback, which is like a bizarro thing to say, right? Because the quarterback is the most important position in any sport, really.
Sure, yeah.
But they were like, if you exclude the quarterback, now I'll say there's a caveat to this, but I'll get to it. Heading into last season, if you looked at every position group, multiple execs told me, like, the Broncos have a better roster than the Chiefs. And at first I was like, that's adorable. And then you go and look at it, and you were like, DBs, far superior. Like safety.
Well, actually, real quick, not to cut you off, but I remember seeing you on the sidelines at training camp last season in an interview with Alexis Perry saying that exact same thing.
Yeah, and yeah, because I think that's around when I was told it when I was making my rounds. I usually try to get to like a 10 to a dozen training camps if I can, and I was kind of hearing that because everybody I see always asks me, because I know I live in Denver, is it gonna come together? Like, who's going to be the quarterback is usually the question I get from everywhere. But with George, I mean, he's been such a sought after GM for so long, like, and they saw the roster that he's been putting together. Everybody was like, the roster is really good. Like, it's good. Now, I will say, this was said prior to the start of the season, that offensive line came together in Kansas City. I mean, that's a really, really good group. And Brett Veach hit it out of the park with Creed Humphreys and Trey Smith. They're going to be there forever. They made one big swing in free agency with Joe Thuney, and that worked. And the big trade with Orlando Brown. I mean, that offensive line is now, I think, one of the better ones in football. But if that just doesn't tell you where people kind of view this group, and I think they were extremely strategic this past offseason. Like, I mentioned DJ already once, but like, I think that is such a sneaky pickup that people will not talk about during free agency. They didn't. And won't talk about it this offseason, won't talk about during camp. And then week 8 rolls around and you're like, dude, they're blowing up offensive lines. Like, they're getting pressure. I don't know if it's going to be sacks, but they're going to be disruptive, him and Draymond Jones. And if the guys on the outside can stay healthy, I'll be honest, I'm not in love with the Randy Gregory move. I felt like that was a little bit out of character for George in terms of a player to go after. But I knew what some of the prices were, and I knew that they weren't looking at those numbers and they weren't looking there. So I just think, and I think the Quan Williams is a really good pickup. I think he knows how to put together a roster, and I think there's depth on this roster as well. I think the only question I really have is, like, are they athletic enough at inside linebacker? And is the offensive line adapt, as we talked about it earlier? Some guys may sink, some guys may swim. How does the offensive line adjust to this new system? Everywhere else, I mean, they got players all over the field.
Yeah, and actually, that was going to be my next question as far as the inside linebacker position, because if we're maybe nitpicking the team a little bit, that might be their weakest position, just simply from the fact that the Broncos may want to move Baron Browning to, maybe a backup edge, or just maybe.
I mean, I just say I'm not a fan of that move
as far as, or maybe even float him around a little bit, right? Like maybe even use him as a hybrid. But I will say, there's one player, because we were talking about earlier about, maybe a player that he's not on your radar, but he might be one that, will be, a really good player as far as maybe during that regular season and the midway point. And he's actually a guy that right at that midway point of last season really came on strong with Baron Browning, and that was Jonas Griffith.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this thing that we're seeing right now with Jonas Griffith? I think we're hearing what he had first team reps, I believe, in OTAs.
Yeah, they're gonna I think this is a spot. I mean, you're exactly right. Like, they love Josie. Like, they really like him as a football player.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'd behoove yourself as a new coaching staff to not go. And this is what they've been doing through OTAs, I'm told, like really getting creative, really mixing guys up, going like, hey, you go there. Give me a couple reps here. Like, give me some, let me see you go here. Because it's fresh eyes, right? It's all fresh eyes on that side of the ball that are going, I don't know, man, let's see if this works. And I think that is a spot to where we might, like, one day at camp be like, oh, do you guys see who's lining up? Like, and then the next day it's flopped, or it's, this guy was working with the threes. Now he's got a couple one reps. Like, oh, okay. And I wouldn't be surprised with Barron's athletic ability that like, I know they want to work him on the outside and work him at edge, and they got a lot of edge right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if if we look at it now, like, think of these really good defenses. I'm not saying the Broncos aren't, because I think they are.
Mm-hmm.
But look at a lot of these defenses and the type of sideline to sideline linebackers that they have that are becoming like extremely important. Because that player in the middle of the field and that safety in the middle of the field, it's funny. I was doing the LSU Pro Day and talking to Brian Kelly about this, because he doesn't know jack dick about any of the LSU players, but he sure knows Kyle Hamilton. So I was asking him about Kyle, and we were in a deep conversation about like that Darren Waller, that Travis Kelce, that George Kittle, that chess piece that you can move around on offense has become so important. When are we going to hit the covering? That has now become a very coveted player.
Yeah.
And
even chess piece for that.
Exactly. Matter. You need that defensive chess piece
that
goes against these offensive guys that are they're too fast for a linebacker. They're too physical for a safety. And you got to figure out a way to cover them. And I think that position is getting more and more important in the middle of the field, to have a guy that can cover him one-on-one. I think that's becoming a big deal. I'd like to see what Barron can do in the middle of the field. And I think we're going to see a lot of different things mixed up if OTA shows us anything.
Sure. James, whenever you want to jump out, you're more than welcome. I do want to say you've already given us 44 minutes of your time, which I'm very, very thankful for.
Well, all I'm doing is putting off this dinner conversation about who's going to play me in this movie.
That's
well, there you go. So I mean,
my son will have 2 cents.
Whenever you want to jump off, of course, you're more than welcome. But of course, if you're willing to answer some more questions, we have.
Yeah, let's do a couple more.
Well, I will say, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this, because it's not a sports related, podcast or thing that you do on YouTube with the Sun Outdoors.
Yeah,
it's the campus campfire conversations, and it's one that you just started this year.
This year. We've done 5. I think we've done 5 so far in this first season. And man, it's cool, because like, in everything I do is such live TV and stuff, and maybe that's why I'm enjoying talking to you guys. I just love, I love talking. I like interviewing people, and a lot of times I get to do that sometimes for the NFL, where we have nice long sit downs. We were talking about before the show, the Philip Lindsay thing, and I've done that a number of times with guys. But I just love sitting down and picking somebody's brain. And so the whole idea that Sun Outdoors came to me with was like, hey, will you just sit down at a campfire and just talk to people that have interesting stories? I was like, yeah, sure. So like,
that's wild, dude.
And it's really done it's done really well, actually. Surprisingly, I don't want to say surprisingly, but it's done really well, like quicker than they thought. And so like the first one that we had on was like Haley Deegan, and I don't know if you guys know Haley. She's a NASCAR. She's a NASCAR driver, yeah. And her dad, I remember her dad, Brian Deegan, part of the Metal Militia, right? Remember those guys like doing backflips on dirt bikes like crazy when that whole world started. And sitting down with her and talking about what it's like to be a female in such a male-driven sport like NASCAR,
driven
like that, and that's why we do this for a living, guys.
That's
and
right.
So, like, just interesting things. Ian Somerhalder, who's on Vampire Diaries and has, I think, a really, really good bourbon. We just sat and drank bourbon. And
he was better on Lost. Just saying.
You liked him on Lost?
I liked him on Lost.
If you watch the episode, he tells a really good story about when he found out he was killed off on Lost.
Yeah, that was a crap episode for me.
Little tease for you, but yeah, he told me, we talked about how he found out, how you find out you get killed off of a show.
And if anybody sees that as a spoiler alert, you're way behind the curve, so I don't feel bad.
yeah, I don't think it's giving anything away. And so yeah, I mean, we got Scott Eastwood coming out on Tuesday.
Dude, I'm so jealous.
He's done some really cool movies, man. Johnny, you got a military background. Like we talked a lot about the importance of being an actor in a military film, and you're portraying these actual people, and you have to make sure you give enough what's the best word I'm doing, representation to these families, to these people, you know what I mean? And
his role, not to cut you off, but to what you just said, his role in The Outpost.
Outpost is an unbelievable movie. Yeah, we talked about Outpost.
I actually served with one of the guys that was there. And so when that movie came out, I was very, I wouldn't say nervous, but I was very critical when the very first time I watched it of how it went. And I know that from this person, I'm not going to say his name on here because he wouldn't want me to, but from the person that I served with that was there when that happened, he told me that some of the things were changed, obviously, as they do in Hollywood, not really in the actual battle scenes, but more along the timeline, the ultimate timeline of how things happened leading up to that. They changed some things to make things a little bit more good for the screen, including what's his name, Legolas, Orlando Bloom. Thank you. I couldn't think of the last name.
You just Orlando stick with Legolas if you want.
Hey, Lord of the Rings is the GOAT. Anyway,
or
Orlando Bloom, like including like where things happen with his character in the actual events. But anyway, I personally, I'm sorry, I went way off on a tangent there, but I personally thought that Scott Eastwood's portrayal of that character, the real character who also spoke once at a military ball that I was at, was incredible. Absolutely incredible. Cool. He is definitely his father's son. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we had a blast, man. Him and I were drinking some beers in San Diego and just talking for like 2
Speaking
hours.
of, that's 3.
That's the fun part, man. Yeah. So I appreciate you bringing it up. It's been really fun. We're going to have a lot more. I think I'm not going to say who, but I think we got a really, really, really good NFL player coming up in season 2. So yeah, Harry Potter is much better.
You're fired, Mike. You're out. Bye.
Well, I want to ask a follow-up question to that, because obviously it's such a unique, thing to do. Like sit down, because it's sort of like you're just there, shooting the breeze, right? Like you're literally there just on a campfire, having some bourbon or, drinking a beer or something and just having a conversation at this particular point. And it's like and we just started, or you just started it, obviously. What has been the most unique story that you've heard so far?
I think probably, I'd probably say Ian Somerhalder's story is probably the most interesting. And I didn't know anything about Vampire Diaries. I didn't know how monstrous of a hit this show was. On
My
WWE.
wife loves it.
Like I didn't know. He was telling me, like, because he was also one of the coolest. He rolls up in his own Airstream, like pulling his own Airstream, shoots it. Like the shot that we have, and we did that in Santa Barbara. Like the background, that giant Airstream behind us, it's his. Like he pulled it up and we sat down in front of it. And like, he's just such a unique person. And I don't think people like him are I don't think you run into very often. I mean, like growing up in Louisiana and like essentially, crawfishing and doing all these different things at 3-4 years old and living off the land essentially like he grew up in. And now just this bourbon has taken him around the world that he literally has created himself. And it's like kind of just given up acting. And, he has a documentary that he produced about how we're kind of, how we could attempt to save our planet essentially, with like Brady and other people in it that he was one of the main producers of, and just a really, really interesting person that loves life and experiences and has unbelievably different and remarkable experiences. He was really, really interesting. Now Scott is like, I mean, we talked for hours and like they would be changing cameras and we'd just be like still shooting the shit like we'd be like, and they'd be like, hey guys, you're gonna get back to the show. We're like, oh, we're like on some tangent about like the north side of London, like in Mars, like different parts we've been to or something. And like he's just been everywhere. He's done everything. Like there's nothing he hasn't tried or doesn't want to try. He's taken pilot lessons. He's flying helicopters. Like he just seeks life. And I think that's a pretty cool quality to have.
That's really cool. A couple more for you, since we're literally you've literally given up a bunch of your night. And if you'll please,
let's just take it to the top of the hour here. Let's do that.
If you'll literally thank the wife and little Nixon for us for surrendering their time, for surrendering your time.
A shout out. Yeah, hey, Nix is an internet guy, man. He's got a YouTube channel.
How old is he?
He's 9. He has his own YouTube channel out there crushing it.
My oldest is 7. Nice. He wishes he had a YouTube channel.
Dude, but good. I mean, it's the best. He'll let a GoPro. We'll be skiing like Winter Park or something, and he'll have a GoPro on, and then I'll go back and listen to it, and I'll hear the beginning. He's like, "Hey guys, you can click the link below to subscribe." And there's no link below. He's just talking to himself about his like run down the mountain. It's hilarious.
There you go. And real quick, I just want to throw this out there, y'all. If you haven't tried the alcoholic Mountain Dew, the hard Mountain Dew, you guys got to try this stuff.
I never knew that was a thing.
This is the hard. This is the hard Baja Blast.
What?
And it is absolutely. It's 5% alcohol, no sugar, no caffeine, but it's delicious. Wow. It tastes just like the Taco Bell stuff.
Wow,
but
I was a Code Red guy in college.
No, there's Code Red. They've got it all.
You sure this isn't like a prank or something?
No, I'm drinking it, Cam. What do you want me to say? I bought it at the local grocery store. It's delicious.
I don't know if this has booze in or not.
No, I can tell you from last week, James, when I sat down with a whole 12-pack of this stuff, there's definitely alcohol in this.
Oh, okay.
So, couple more quick questions. Since you brought up the bourbon, I know we've only talked some about the Broncos, but that's the thing. One thing we love about the show is getting to know our guests, because everybody, especially with people like you're nationally syndicated. You've been, so most anybody in Broncos country who actually cares about the Broncos, who isn't just a random fan, knows who you are. Or at least knows you as far as the NFL Network goes. They tune into this show because, hey, in addition to talking Broncos, they get to know you in a different light, which is really cool.
Dig it.
So Rich asks, what's your whiskey brand, since you brought up the bourbon?
Ooh. Yeah, so I do like Brothers Bond. It's like my new thing that I plug because it's super drinkable. It's neat or rocks. And I used to be, or I still am, I guess. I've just kind of cut back a little bit, guys, not gonna lie. I'm a big Manhattan guy, and I love making Manhattans. And I think I make a really good Manhattan, actually. And so I might
have to test this theory at some point.
Yeah, let's do it. I like Elijah Craig's small batch. The 10-year is pretty good. I think, all the Whistle Pig everybody loves, but if we get into like the real snobby ones, that's not really that's not really me. I'm not going to sit here and buy a super expensive, bourbon. If I'm making a Manhattan, I'm literally just going to do like Knob Creek's rye.
Knob Creek,
or like Bullet Rye. Like
I'm Bullet's cool with good stuff.
Bullet rye. Yeah, I'm cool with.
Have you ever tried Eagle Rare?
I don't think so.
I highly recommend.
Okay.
Highly. It's kind of the reason I love Eagle Rare. One, it's aged longer than most bourbons.
Okay.
So it's very smooth. It's a bourbon that drinks, in my opinion, this is the review that I gave it. It's a bourbon that drinks like a scotch.
Ooh.
and I really love Eagle Rare. So
Okay.
I highly recommend.
Noted.
So,
Dig it.
Couple more questions. Cam, if it's all right with you, real quick, because we've got about 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes left. Let's ask. Let's give this one here. I'm going to give it to a new name, so I've got to toast you because you're a new member of the NRW crew. So list to fly. Who do you guys think has the early edge in the right tackle competition?
I mean, the one that would jump out at you right away would be Billy Turner, just because his familiarity, right, with Hackett and his familiarity with knowing what's happening.
Well, and his years of experience too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's set up right now. I don't want to say they're setting it up for him, but it's set up for him to probably have the start from the jump. I'm saying everything that lines up. I feel like I'm a name dropper on here. I watched the first Predators Avalanche game of the series in a box with Garrett Bowles and Calvin Anderson. And I think Calvin's a really, really smart player and has a chance to make a spot in there. I got
excited there.
Yeah, I saw that. I just think Billy has the edge to start off with, because when you're making these changes, it's to have a familiarity with the coach and to have a familiarity with the system and kind of have that sense. I think it is an advantage, and I'd say he's got the leg up as of right now.
All right, we appreciate that. I like Calvin Anderson for the job. So
Calvin Anderson is an interesting guy, man. He might be the smartest, like academia person on the team.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Cam, you want to give him one more question before we roll out of here?
I actually do have one. So obviously, I know you watched the game last night, the devastating Avs game, but there was a really unbelievable moment of that game where Nathan McKinnon, when it was tied and he went coast to coast and scored.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, what is the equivalent, if anything, of that in the NFL?
All right, so I'm going to put my hockey love out there for everybody. I don't think there is anything better than hockey playoffs. I think the NHL playoffs are the best thing in sports. No lie. I just think my first job was in hockey, actually. I worked for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh, wow.
Before the NFL. And I just think the world of the way the game is played, the effort that is given. I don't think there is anything better in sports. And it was happening. I tweeted out, I think, last night, where I was like, I wish Doc Emmerich was on this call, because I love Doc so much.
Doc.
I think he might be the best play-by-play of all time in any sport.
Yes.
I know everybody loves Vin Scully. I do too, but Doc is just the greatest. And if a team is facing elimination and they've pulled their goalie and they're up a player and they're trying to tie a game at the end of the third, like, I don't think there's anything more exciting than that. And sadly, it went the bleeping wrong way for the Avs,
right?
And they give up a goal with 56 seconds left. But I'm trying to think. You're right. Like the equivalent of that. I mean, that's one of the best hockey plays I've ever seen. Like to go coast to coast like that through four. I'd say not all five. Four guys
at the speed he did too.
His speed's incredible,
and his puck handling. Nobody handles the puck
to lift the puck with such little space as he had between him and the goalie was ridiculous. I'm trying to think, like, what could be the equivalent of doing that tie game? Like, because I talked to my buddy who had the same box that I was in for the first one. I guess I'm not as close as I thought I was with him because I wasn't invited. But he said he's never heard a stadium, any sport, the way it was after that McKinnon goal. He said it was unbelievable.
The only thing I could probably, like, maybe make a comparison with, but again, like, you're comparing two different sports, would be last year's playoffs, Bills Chiefs, and the pass and the throw from Mahomes to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, that was. And speaking of, like, great, like, I was running back and forth sideline to sideline. I was like, oh my god, we're gonna do a post game interview with Josh Allen. Let's go, Cam McCrew. And we'd like run over there and be like, no, it's gonna probably be Mahomes, and like run back to the other side. And we were just going sideline to sideline. One of the greatest finishes ever. Yeah, like a walk-off touchdown in a playoff game. I mean, that's probably that, like, ends it. And see, like, that's probably. I think that's a good pick because, like, as amazing as McKinnon's was, it didn't end the game. Like, the Blues ended up tying the game. So yeah, like, I mean, if that would have happened in OT, oh my god. That'd have been unreal.
I said it to my cousin. I was messaging. First of all, I was at work. I was having to watch the game at work because this is definitely not this. This definitely doesn't pay the bills at all. But I'm sitting at work and I'm watching the game and I'm texting my cousin. And I literally said, I don't think I've ever seen anyone in the history of hockey who handles the puck at the speed they do that Nathan MacKinnon does and can.
And at the size he is.
Nobody.
I mean, he's not.
The man is a freak.
He had a great game.
It was incredible.
He played line to line, man. He got back on D. He had a great game.
It was phenomenal.
Everywhere. Let's get it on Friday, guys. Come on.
Absolutely. So, hey, we are at the top of the hour. Actually, we're past the top of the hour now. I'm so sorry we've taken so much of your time, James.
No problem. I loved it, guys.
Yeah, it's been great, and we hope to have you on again.
Let's do it. Let's do it like during the season.
Absolutely.
When we can really talk about stuff that we know is important.
I've been talking to you on Instagram.
It's important right now, but it's a lot of speculation.
I've been talking to you on Instagram, but if you wouldn't mind, I use Twitter way more. I don't use Instagram much. Speaking of Instagram or Twitter, or where can everybody who doesn't already know you follow you or find you and find your work, James?
Yeah, I'm not a big Instagrammer either. I don't know if people want to look at just pictures of me. So Twitter's my better following too. Yeah, it's James Palmer TV on both.
Okay.
And that's about it. I don't really do anything other than those two.
Okay.
I got the Facebook from college, I guess, but
there's that.
I don't really do a whole bunch. Yeah.
So I will definitely hit you up on Twitter in the future to get you back on the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, James, for joining us. We will definitely do this again. It's been a lot of fun. And
it was
absolute blast.
And we will definitely catch you later. All right, brother. So go get to the wife and the boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go find out who's gonna play me.
Yeah. You and by the way, you see my Twitter handle down there? I want you to tag me and whoever your wife said plays you. If you would.
I'll put Cam in there too. Come on, man.
All right, yeah. Put us both in there, but definitely tag us and who your wife thinks would play you.
Okay. Got it.
All right, brother.
Beautiful.
You have a good night, man.
You guys be well. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, what an interview. Holy cow. That was so much fun. I mean, James Palmer, guys, what a guy.
Yeah, he's incredible. It means the world, just simply even having a guest, but for him to spend the amount of time that he did and take his time and answer every single question, it just goes to show you the kind of guy that he is, the kind of person that he is. And we got some pretty dang good nuggets for all the Broncos stuff that's out there, and we also got to understand James Palmer, the person, from his
which is something that most of us haven't ever gotten.
Right. So to be afforded to have this type of platform, to be afforded this type of opportunity to interview a guy like James Palmer, it's a really difficult one to pass up. And so hopefully for anybody that was a new or old, subscriber over here on the Nothing Rhymes podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are a new subscriber, hit that subscribe button. And if you are a new subscriber, also thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes, and I would like to say to everybody that asked the questions they did, there was a lot of questions we weren't able to get to because James is very in depth with his answers on a lot of questions. If we did not get your question answered tonight, I am truly sorry. I saw them. I will do my best to answer them myself to you from my point of view. But I do appreciate everybody being involved. That being said, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight on the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast on MHRT Network. It would not be what it is without all of you. We are truly thankful for it. Please subscribe, like, share. Again, share. I cannot reiterate enough. Share it out there to your family, friends, Broncos fans. Let's build this family, guys. Don't miss our other shows. 5280 on Tuesdays, Wild Wild West on Thursdays, or on Wednesdays, I'm sorry. 5280 is at 7654 on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And Wild Wild West is 730, 630, 530, 430. Same locations. Broncos Breakdown on Fridays, 2, 1, 12, and 11. Same locations. If you prefer listening to our audio podcast or to audio podcasts while driving or commuting or doing work around the house, you can find our audio versions everywhere you find your favorite podcast. We'll be back with you next Thursday with even more Broncos fun, banter. It's been a great time. Cam, I want to thank you, my friend, for joining me and filling in for my for Isaiah, for my partner who has been out tonight, and I hate that, but I really appreciated having you here. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Oh, you are so very welcome. And obviously, I wasn't on for Tuesday's show because of a work commitment.
That's right. I'd forgotten that.
So it felt good to be back on the airwaves and actually be back on the airwaves with not just the GOAT James Palmer, but the GOAT beard and person Johnny Baki.
Oh, buddy, thank you. And you heard it here, Mundungus. The GOAT beard. He's right. You're wrong. That being said, and by the way, I fully expect to be on Mainly Broncos sooner rather than later, my friend.
We will make it happen.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Broncos country, MHRT fam, NRW crew, however I refer to you. It doesn't matter. We love you guys. We appreciate you. And let's ride.